Welcome to another episode of Fearless Flight Live for this week, 22 March of 2022. And with me, of course, are Eric, Diane, our favorite flight attendant, Diane, is probably in the air right now. See, she got delayed. She's on a trip. Thought she'd be able to join us, but not so much. And as Eric calls him, our resident Chief Technical Officer, Dieter Staudinger, up there. And we want to welcome you. The whole point of the show in Fearless Flight is to help people who who get spooked by flying, have a fear of flying anxiety, or maybe you know somebody that does, or maybe you just like to talk about airplanes and flying and want to keep up a little bit with that. So we'll do that tonight. The first thing we do is we want to introduce or expose you to our Fearless Flight group, our special Facebook group, Birds of a Feather. And we'll have a link in the notes for that. We're up over 950 people. We'll have some kind of little celebration and giveaway when we get to 1,000, which could happen pretty soon as things are climbing here. And then for tonight, we have a special group of guests. We have a group of flyers again that flew with me on Saturday. I went over to Burbank and we flew from Burbank to Sacramento and back. And this is a first for us tonight. We're calling him a special guest. We got a Southwest captain and named Mike Reskovic. I think I got his name right. I should have asked there before. And he's with us. He was actually the pilot that flew the class, and I'm not kidding. The folks commented about a couple of things that he did, and we'll highlight that tonight and talk about maybe how we can encourage that from other pilots if you don't get that what you need out there. And anyway, so let's open it up and we'll let everybody in. Eric or Dieter and
so, and I just want to do a quick shout out to Stephanie Bernier, who has an amazing group as well, and we're gonna do a special presentation for all these questions that are in that group. So, and with that, welcome, Captain Mike. Great to have you on.
Thank you.
Hey, hey, well, this was really unusual, Mike. So you didn't know what you were stepping into, but so we hope it goes okay here. But I happen to find Southwest the most convenient with the most options for when I do these classes. First of all, they've been really you guys. I'll say you guys because you're part of the Southwest team there, but they've been very helpful as I had to transition from the airline that I worked with here in Phoenix over to Southwest, and so the local station here has been really helpful in giving us an airplane once a month on a Saturday night so that we can go on there. And we actually do the whole class on the airplane now. And it really helps expose the people who have a lot of claustrophobia and are really triggered when they get on an airplane. And then beyond that, what we do when we hold these online classes, which we'll talk a little bit about tonight, and post-COVID, before COVID, I used to do it in a hotel room or something, and then we'd have the really adventurous ones would buy a ticket with me, and we'd jump on Southwest and go somewhere. But we pick Southwest because it does offer us more options, to get to a place and get back in the same day rather than have to lay over. So that's how you ran into us, and you were telling us just before that was unusual for you because you're based out of Houston, I think.
I'm a Houston-based pilot, so for me to actually be on the California side, it's fairly rare over the last year or so. So the Houston pilots tend to fly the most, the Caribbean and Mexico and East Coast stuff. So to actually have a whole West Coast trip, that was kind of rare, and it was actually kind of enjoyable. I love it. I love flying up and down the West Coast of the United States.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's a little bit more likely now because we're still phasing through the COVID thing with crew, trying to get crews and staffing and stuff. Maybe I don't know.
It's still a struggle, especially on the ground op side of it. As well as it seems to be more pressing with them than it is so much for us. I mean, we're always looking for, candidates and pilots to join, but it's just, it seems to be getting a little bit better. So,
Well, the first thing I was going to ask you is, what was your reaction when you saw this bunch of yahoos come up there and talking to you about this thing called fear of flying?
Well, you know what? It's a weekly occurrence. You'd be surprised at how many people approach me in the jetway, or they just want to see up front. And they want to see what's going on up front and meet me. And I, and I enjoy meeting these people, especially young children.
Yeah.
And
they're fun.
I still have my first photo up front in an L-1011 with Eastern Airlines. So, I really enjoy meeting these folks and talking to them and just trying to kind of get them to, just give them a little bit more assurance, kind of really take some time to explain to them, where the bumps are forecasted to be, even show my iPad how we plan and route all this stuff. So we have a visual cue on where all this stuff is and how it's going to be really bad, it's going to be really light. So, it seems to work. So
it does. There's, I've noticed over the 35 years that and I got involved serendipitously. I had no idea that I would ever be doing this, let alone at this stage of my life. And it's the most fulfilling thing I've done. But one of the things I've heard, there's a certain mystique about flying, unless you've done it. And I think that's why it helps for people to check in with you a little bit. And we encourage everybody that goes through our classes, we encourage them to try to pre-board, because of the anxiety that they have, and to specifically ask to meet the pilots, because no matter what language you guys talk in, it's always interesting to them and it connects you, because they think that you're a robot unless they actually you have a pulse.
We're very structured. We do everything the same, regardless of who you're working with. Everything is the same and the same patterns. But meeting the passengers and interacting with, especially those with disabilities or fear of flying, that's actually fun for me. I enjoy doing that. But I absolutely, if you can come say hi to us or just let the operations agent know that, hey, I am scared to death, is it okay if I go down a little early and meet the pilots? They were more than happy to oblige that. So because it happens a lot more than you think. So
yeah,
we have a question for you from our audience here on Facebook. I'm just curious. Somebody's asking if you happen to have flown with a gentleman called Almost Captain Morgan, who I guess is a Southwest pilot and very active on TikTok and helping.
I'm not a big social media influence. I don't have TikTok. I've heard about it. I don't know really what it is. There's 10,000 of us pilots. Yeah, and I get asked that question all the time. There's 30,000 flight attendants. So, do you know so-and-so? And no, unless they're physically in Houston, and I might have flown with them maybe once in my 16 years at this company, probably not.
Yeah, that's like me. That's like me living up here in Canada near Toronto, and traveling in the States sometimes. Hey, I have an uncle up in Toronto. Have you seen him?
You're right. So it's the same it's the same thing. Yeah. So.
All right,
let's bring everybody else in.
So Cami, Tom, Sandra, if you want to unmute and unmask yourself and join the party. There we go. These are the graduates from our latest group of Fearless Flyers. This past Saturday. Ron, I'll let you go and
and they weren't the only ones, but we're glad that you guys. Hey, Sandra, how you doing?
Hey,
my favorite dentist. I have to temper that because I have another client in Chicago who's also a dentist, and I just told her that we have an inside joke about being the favorite there. So anyway, so we wanted to just ask a couple questions. So we got Cami here, we got Tom, and Tom and Cami flew kind of as mentors over the weekend, but they can offer opinions on this. And Sandra is a really articulate, and so I'm looking forward to that. One of the questions I want to ask is we have a lot of content. I want to talk a little bit about the online course that we've got and the student portal and all that for what we call Clear for Takeoff 201. And it's got a lot of content. We talk about the psychology of fear flying. We talk about the basics of flight. we talk about the coping skills and strategies, and then the last module that we do is putting it all together. And inside those modules are videos, PDFs, audios, and all kinds of content there. And one of the questions I wanted, did you guys find it easy to navigate that portal? Because this was the first class where we actually had it up in the cloud. So the minute you signed up for the class, you could actually go experience that. And hey, Jana, you're there too. Thanks for joining us tonight. So anybody, if you want to just feedback to me and Dieter mainly about how you found the portal. Did it work okay? And you know, or did you have any issues with it? And also, did it work well on a mobile device?
I thought it worked really well. I used it on my phone the whole time and I loved it.
Okay.
I think I had to kind of slow it down and take more time and understand it all, because I couldn't find like the flight information. If you remember, I was asking like, oh, where's the flight? But I on my phone, I thought that was really convenient. And then downloading the information, the resources on my phone was really helpful.
Okay, and because I know that, you know, the numbers are upwards of 60-70% of the people get their connection from the internet over their mobile devices now. So you got to have, you know, you got to have that as a capability. So, and we don't control all that. That's a company whose platform we're using does the mobile part, and they're kind of new at that. So that's why we wanted some feedback on that. And so you use mostly your mobile device. How about you, Jana? How about you?
I use my my big computer. I just prefer to use a bigger screen, and I like the mouse. I'm so old school like that, so I prefer to do it that way. But I found it very easy to navigate, very self-explanatory, and very organized. I liked it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jenna, you make me feel less old. I like
to same here
with a mouse too, instead of walk around with a device and get run over by people.
Yeah, I don't have the supersonic thumbs that the youngsters seem to have there.
Yeah.
So I'm a big guy too. Hey, Cammie, how about you? Because you took it the old day when we did it live, and so you've been exposed. This is kind of the first time for you.
Well, you know, I use it on my computer too. So I don't know about the mobile device thing. And of course, it's always great to be, you know, in a group, but it is really great to be able to have the opportunity to have people be able to access it. Because one of the things that everybody says, you know, and I felt the same way when I found out about this class, my question was, can I go? Is it in my area? Right. And so it just allows so many people those opportunities. So it's exciting.
Okay. Because the biggest thing that we wanted to know was, is it accessible, and you know, and how accessible was it for you?
And I see that there's a mix between mobile and laptop or in front of a larger computer. And I'm gonna say, actually, the nice thing is now that you can do both. You know, you can study beforehand, but then you can also have it on your phone or on your tablet when you're actually heading to the airport and on your, you know, on your flight. So we really tried to cater to all possibilities as much as we could. So
yeah. And speaking about this, did you all feel that the content prepared you for the flight? Y'all made it. Nobody bailed, so that's a good sign. Yeah. Janet, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Katie.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cammie.
I was just going to say, based on their behavior, I was amazed because this is the second time I've been as a coach. And I think back, you all were there. Some of you were there on my first flight, and I did not do as well as any of these folks. I will tell you right now, if you looking at them from the outside, you would have not known they are fearful flyers. I will tell you that.
I agree.
They looked calm, cool, and collected. So it did prepare them based on how they behaved in the plane.
I agree. They all looked as cool as anybody else, and I had so much regret not getting on the airplane. I just watched them go up the air stair, get on, not take a single look back, and nobody charging out with a Southwest employee chasing them down the air stair. And they go, they're gone. That's it.
I still think that we have several imposters out there because we got a lot of people in there. I think they just didn't get enough attention growing up because they sure as hell don't look like fearful flyers when you get them to the airport there. So anyway,
my sister who flies with me sometimes likes to say that I look like a duck, like I'm like a duck, where it's like you're super calm on the outside, but underneath you're like this.
Right.
So that's probably what happened. We're kind of the silent sufferers.
yeah. I tell people, that because one of the number one fear, or one of the biggest fears, is that you'll give away how anxious you really are. And I was just talking to a coaching student earlier today, and he said, afraid he's going to, in this era, get duct taped to the seat. And I said, that doesn't happen. Yeah, if you get duct taped, you got other issues other than just your fear of flying or so. But people, it's a logical thing though, to feel so anxious on the inside, to think that that's going to manifest on the outside, but it doesn't, because we got a higher part of your brain that says, do not do that. Do not betray me. I do not want to be duct taped to the seat or escorted off the airplane in cuff cuffs or something like that. So, Sandra, how about you? Did you feel prepared for the flight?
I did.
Yeah.
I organized the modules. It was really helpful. Seeing the old students and their experiences. The last flight class that you had from, was it Baltimore or?
Boston. We flew to Baltimore on Southwest before.
I liked hearing what they had to say and the resources that they kind of really used. So I kind of used that to see like, what can I really, take, because everything was so good. You did excellent, Captain. Your whole team, everyone did so well. So, and then having everyone there was amazing. Like I had never met Cammie before, but just like giving me hugs, constant hugs and reassurance. I'm like, I can do this, and then having to bring my husband was helpful. I felt very comfortable and relaxed and safe. So,
yeah. For those watching that are either enrolled in the course or might enroll in the course, what we did was I flew to Burbank on Friday, and then so I could be in position on Saturday morning, because it doesn't make me hit if I miss the flight. So anyway, so we did that, and then we meet at the airport, and everybody from the station manager at Burbank to the supervisors and stuff that worked with us out there, they're just super. And they managed to, we had early boarding, so we get on there. That's the most stressful time for me, is just to make sure that I get everybody on there and we can sit somewhere in a little cluster, because it adds to people's confidence in that. But we did that. And then did you fly us up, Mike, as well? Did you make the flight up to there, or did you pick it up? Yeah.
Because I had overnighted in Burbank, and then we went to Sacramento, Burbank, then to Phoenix, and then to Omaha.
Okay, and I rode back to Phoenix with you as well later in that day. But anyway, so you guys want to talk about the flight a little bit, just and how do you think the Capt did? We're going to give him a rating here for friendly, fearful flyer. Oh, nobody wants to talk now, so that might not. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he remembers, but I went up and kind of introduced myself, and
you did.
Okay.
I do remember you, and then there was another gentleman that came out, and he physically came in. And
that would have been Jim Morris.
Yeah. He physically came in, and he's like, I just want to see what's going on.
That's Jim. Yeah. And
it's so pleasantly surprised. I didn't have a plan to do that. It was I told the flight attendants kind of who we were. She was the one who kind of offered that, and I of course took her up on it.
But what I was telling Ron earlier, I was like, this is a weekly thing. We see people that are scared to fly all the time. But looking at you folks, never would have guessed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because usually you can see the fear in their eyes, especially in Burbank, because they're using the air stairs and they're coming right past my window. And nobody really had any of that panic look in their face. And so, I mean, it was great. But I want to ask you, I mean, as somebody is that beneficial to you, do you think, to actually come up front? Because I welcome it, and most of us do, to come up and actually say hi and tell us.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that for some of us, we have different issues with flying. I think that for myself, I'm not so concerned so much about the mechanics of the plane. I feel very safe. I feel like I trust the pilots. I don't have issues with that. I just have more of a claustrophobic type of feeling, which causes me. So I don't, so yes, it was reassuring to talk to you guys and to it, you know what it did for me? It kind of made the flight a little bit more personal, if that makes sense, because I met you two and kind of had a 2-3 minute conversation. And so in my brain, it kind of went like, okay, I kind of know them now. It felt like, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I think that definitely for those that feel a little bit more concerned about, you know, who's flying this thing and how are we going to stay in the air and are they paying attention and all of those kind of nuances, I think it would be extremely beneficial.
Okay. All right.
If I could speak to that, if I could speak to that a little bit, because this is one of my favorite parts of flying now. So, you know, I didn't fly for 15 years and now I've flown many, many times very successfully. But one of the things that I always do, I didn't this time because I was with my group, but I always meet the pilot. And first of all, I found that Southwest pilots are the most friendly. I won't talk about any other airlines, but I will just say that they're the most friendly. And you know, I actually have 2 pictures sitting in the pilot seat with very, you know, if someone is out, they'll like let me sit down, let me like press buttons and everything, which feels a little scary. But anyway, you know, it really matters. And I know, like, when I go back, it's a habit that I have that it's so significant. And I go back and I tell my family, like, you know, Mike's driving us and all is well. And they tell me things like, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years. And it just helps me to understand, like, this person has been doing this every day or 5 days a week or however many you're doing it for 40 years or 30 years, and they're still fine. And I'm going to be fine today. It's a super powerful, proactive thing to do for me when I get on the plane. It's huge.
All right.
Most people, Mike, fearful flyers are used to be about 50-50 between worried about the mechanics of flying, you know, versus claustrophobia or anticipatory anxiety. Now I'd say it's probably closer to 80-90% of the people. They claim, you know, I know it's safe to fly, but I don't like being closed up. I don't, you know, and things like that. And that's the biggest issue. I mean, but in all cases, meeting the crew, I tell them, you know, I don't usually take the whole group in there because it's kind of disruptive when we got a class here. But I tell them individually when you go, definitely you want to meet the crew and do that because it is a connecting thing. Go ahead.
Well, I was speaking with my flight attendants I had that day with y'all, and we were in Omaha. Mm-hmm. And we're discussing, you know, your program and what you do. And one flight attendant brought up the claustrophobia, and Jen even said the same thing. The claustrophobia seems to be the biggest issue out of all of this. Yeah. And the flight attendant brought up an interesting point because we do this in the summer. And I'm not sure if it helps or hurts the thing, but you know, when it gets really hot outside, they always ask the passengers to put the window shades down and keep the airplane cool. Do you think that helps or hurts those that are claustrophobic?
I'll ask you guys because I have an opinion about that myself, but I'll ask you guys if you got an answer from it.
Hurts.
Does it make a difference when you get on? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I think
and a lot of people who aren't afraid, my experience riding back there is that they leave them down, you know, and you know, they kind of, you know, that and this is probably one of my frailties, but as a person riding in the back, when we're on takeoff roll, I want the windows open because if we have to stop and get out of that thing, I want to know which side that I'm going to go out of, you know, but that's part of my training and stuff like that. So I don't particularly like it. And I end up sitting on the aisle a lot and I kind of want to reach over and raise it, but you know, I don't, but I think most people kind of default to the position it was in. I've flown, went to Hawaii about 3 times over the last year and same thing. Nobody raises the curtains almost the entire flight. And of course, people got a lot of electronic devices that they're trying to watch. So that helps see the screen better. But anyway, yeah. So
we have a question from our Facebook audience and for you, Captain Mike, and that it may be out of your realm because that might be a company decision, so more than an individual. But is there? What the comment was, it would be helpful if you as a pilot would just, you know, welcome the people on the plane and say, hey, and if there are any fearful flyers on board, you know, make sure you talk to the flight attendant. We got you covered. You know, just like a simple little thing like that. And the question is, why don't you guys do this?
Right. You know, and mainly is because most of the people that are absolutely terrified to fly, they make it very well known to the flight attendant in the front. We call her the A flight attendant, that they're scared to death. And usually, you know, and if I have time from doing my stuff up front, I was like, hey, you know, come on up and I'll talk to them, or, you know, but like I said, you know, with your folks that I had on Saturday, I never would have guessed that. And until they actually said something to the flight attendant, it's like, oh yeah, go on and see it, you know, come on and meet, you know, me up front. You know, that's usually how it happens. So, you know, that would be a more company than in each individual. You know, each individual pilot kind of does their own thing. You know, so, but I mean, 99% of us are more than welcome to welcome anybody up front if they're scared, and talk to them.
Not to discount what you said, one of the things that my experience is, there are a lot more people, the people who are really, really, really anxious may disclose that, but there are a lot of people in the back. You know, my own experience is about 25% of the people on board are at the level of white knuckling or avoiding it if they can't. And a lot of them are not likely to say anything. And we could just take a quick straw poll here. Tom, before you started in the class and stuff like that, would you have volunteered that you were afraid to fly getting on the airplane?
No.
How about you? Sandra?
No.
No. Janet? Would you have said anything?
No, I've never said anything. I've been a little too embarrassed.
yeah, Cammie. Yeah. And the surprising reason was not about the fear so much, but about the embarrassment. And that ends up and so that's why it's so much more pressure, because they're less worried about you know, even their claustrophobia and stuff like that, than they are about being exposed to people. And so that's why I say, and again, I can't dispute anybody's experience, but having interviewed so many thousands of people over the years, most people are not likely to do that. So you got a lot more than what you think back there. And you see the ones that you know, absolutely it's bubbling over, you know, and so, and one of the things that, because I started doing this simultaneously with teaching CRM and recurrent, I had an opportunity to share some of my feedback for the cruiser, and a couple of things which I want to share with you here in just a minute, Mike, too, is that whenever we make pilot announcements up there, you know, one of the things that we think we're doing good when we say, hey, I've asked the flight attendants to take their seats because we got some reports of turbulence, stuff like that. If the pilot doesn't say anything reassuring, most of them think, oh my God, this is the big one coming, you know, and literally. And so I used to tell all the guys that I met in recurrent, I said, so whatever you do, always end it with something of reassurance, like, hey, this is not a big deal. We just want the flight attendants secure in their seats, just like you are. So, because the only way you get hurt is getting bounced around the cabin like there.
I mean, for my own, and everybody can make up their own PAs, but, you know, for me, I usually put a time on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
and I said that going out of Sacramento. I was like, you know, for the first 9 minutes or so of the flight, it's going to be a little bumpy, and then it should smooth out for us all the way into Burbank.
I was hoping.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. Oh, those two and Jim Morris. Now, probably others had that same reaction. I wanted to make sure you got that feedback, because all three of them came up to me and said, "Oh my God, I loved his announcements." Okay. And so because it does keep, and that's why I tell people to go up there. I say, you got to train your pilot. So when you go up and meet him, when you get on the airplane, tell him that you really appreciate any information he can give you during the flight there. And when you put time on it.
It helps those of us that are anxious kind of, you know,
because now you have something to hold on to. You have a time.
Yeah.
You can look at your Apple Watch and say, hey, in 9 minutes, it's going to start getting better.
Right, because the unknown is tough for us, and so kind of to have that little bit of that little bit of info is really helpful. So I totally paid attention to that. I appreciated that.
So,
even if it doesn't come true, it's helpful, because you got people whose number one issue is not feeling in control, you know, and when you get on an airplane, they completely give up their control to two people in the cockpit that they have no idea what's going on with them. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, but just, you know, to be totally honest, I did have an advantage on that flight because we had come in.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Back.
Yeah.
So I had an advantage there. And a lot of times we don't. So
right. And we explain that to them, you know, that we don't know. And they say, well, how do you know? Can you? I say, usually from other airplanes in front of you, you know, if you're the pioneer that day, if you're an early flight in the morning and nobody's flown, you know, you're going to be the one giving the first reports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just making those announcements, and I had to laugh because more than any other time I've had a flight of Fearful Flyers like that, you did it, and 3 people came up to me immediately, and I tell people as well, when you get off the airplane, tell the guys that you like that, or the guys and gals who's ever flying, you know, say, you know, really appreciate the information you gave me, because you know it's like you want to reinforce that and have them do it. So anyway, but the announcements get to be a big thing, because it does connect them, and the time is really you couldn't have met this group with any better information than what you did. It was really cool that you did that. So anyway, any questions you might have for us, Mike, or any of the group here that, you know?
No, not. I mean, we've pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some really nice discussion. It's great meeting you all, especially you folks on Saturday. That was great meeting you. And but you guys got to experience one of the only 2 places that we have in the system where we use air stairs.
Yeah, so, exactly. So
we only have 2 of those airports left. So the other being Long Beach.
Yeah, yep. So, that's what I tell them. I said, you know, this is the only place without that. And I really appreciate you showing up tonight, Mike, because this is the first time we've ever had somebody that flew more than one leg with us, and we got to know, and you know, and it could have the opportunity to do that. So things like. Any other questions, Dieter?
Well, the main thing, and this might be somewhat illuminating for you, Captain Mike, we just got like a ton of comments that all said, yeah, I would have never said anything. I never would have, you know, I don't want the embarrassment. So it's just, I would say 9 out of 10, you know, would have never disclosed.
I mean, and feedback like that is good. I mean, that's something, you know, I'm not sure how the flight attendants, I can't speak for their training. They seem to be able to pick up on it more than, but they're more in direct contact with people than I am, you know, and they usually will say something to me, hey, we got somebody who's really, really scared. Okay. You know, do they want to come up, say hi? Do I need to go back and talk to them? Things like that. They have a lot more interaction than we do, but that's clearly, it's something I'm going to consider. And, you know, and on our end of the spectrum, of the pointy end. And you know, I've been doing this 35 years, and what I found is I don't call them fearful flyers or anything. You know, I used to walk back through the cabin and do my pre-brief sometimes, and I would say to them, I'd say, you know, anybody out there a little nervous, you know, especially if they had the cowl up on the engine or something like that, and you get raise their hand. I said, well, you know what, I am too. And I said, but I'm a bigger chicken than any of you, you know. So I always use self-deprecating humor and things like that. But when I would make PAs and stuff, I would try to coach it in terms like just assuming that, you know, not everybody was cool with it, but not to out them, you know, so much. Well, I mean, because they're nervous to say something, and I don't want to embarrass them even further.
Exactly.
By calling attention to them. So you know, it kind of goes either way. So there's a fine line there. There's got to be a way to approach it. But
well, thanks for joining us tonight, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thanks to all of you who came that were with us on Saturday for the class. Thank Dieter, thanks Eric, and we're going to sign off here. But we are especially again for Stephanie's group and anybody for that matter, we're going to put on a special presentation for the questions that came up in Stephanie's group, and we'll be communicating directly with you or through Stephanie. So watch for that news, and come back next week for anher episode of Fearless Flight Live. So we'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks.
Great job, Flyers, and great job, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything.